There's a moment I notice every year. It usually happens when someone's standing in the nursery, holding a hosta in one hand and something else in the other. A shrub, a perennial, sometimes a plant they didn't come in for at all. And they pause, not because they're confused, but because they're imagining. That moment tells me a lot about how gardens actually work. Have you ever noticed how even the most stunning hosta can feel quiet? Hostas are generous plants, but over time, I've learned, like people, they're not really meant to be alone. Before we go any further, I'm Michelle, new to YouTube and still fairly new to the nursery business too. So this channel is a lot like gardening. There will be false starts, a few failures, and hopefully plenty of great things that grow better than expected. Hostas, gardens, friendships. If you find yourself craving a quieter way to think about gardening, subscribing is a nice option to find your way back here and spend time with us. Today, that brings us right to the heart of this video: why hostas rarely stand alone and why most gardeners don't want them to. When people hear the name Hosta Heaven, they often assume it means one thing: rows and rows of hostas, nothing else. But that's not how it plays out. Not in our garden and not with the people who come here. Sure, some shoppers come just for the hostas. They know what they're looking for. They've been waiting for that cultivar. Others skip the hostas entirely. They head straight for the shrubs or perennials that want sun and space and a little drama. But most people, most gardeners, don't shop that way. They gather a hosta, a flowering shrub, something native, something pollinator friendly, something unexpected. Not because they planned it that way, but because gardens don't live in categories. They live in relationships. Hostas are generous plants. They hold the ground, they soften the edges, they catch light when very little else does. But when I say a hosta can feel quiet when it's alone, I don't mean peaceful. Peaceful has a pulse. Quiet, the kind I'm talking about, feels unfinished. It's the difference between a pause in a conversation and standing in a room after everyone's left. A single hosta can be flawless, perfect leaves, perfect color, perfect form, and still feel like it's waiting for something. This happened in the garden last year. A customer at the nursery checked out, left, stopped out on the road in front, and got out of her car, came over to the garden and checked out a hosta. I half met her there thinking she forgot something or she missed something. She said, "Oh no, I was just looking at that one hosta." That one. I wanted to know what it was. It stood out. It really did stand out, but it doesn't stand alone. There are many other plants and hostas around it, supporting it, keeping it growing, keeping it current, keeping it noticeable. Some hostas are waiting for a shadow to pass. That's what makes them spectacular. Some are waiting for something nearby to bloom and then fade so they can stand out again. Some are waiting to belong to a moment in time, not just be admired. I think we sometimes confuse well-grown with complete, but completeness in a garden doesn't come from the plant itself. It comes from what happens around it. I know this feeling well because we have a garden like this too. A newer hosta garden, about 100 hostas, a big open space, and a lot of mulch. They're carefully laid out, spaced generously, almost like a grid that's trying to look organic. There's room to walk, room to breathe, and room for what hasn't arrived yet. It isn't emptiness by accident, it's emptiness by design. Space for future hostas, space for paths that don't exist yet, space for shrubs and perennials we haven't chosen, space for time to do its work. You know, we all should keep growing. And still, even knowing all of that, there are days it feels quiet. Not wrong, just unfinished. Not there yet. A sea of mulch can look like discipline. It can look like control. It can look like patience. And sometimes it is. But it can also feel lonely, even when the plants are healthy and the plan is sound. I didn't always understand this. Early on, I thought the goal was finding the hosta, the rare one, the hard to find one, the one people talk about in hushed tones. Don't get me wrong, I love those. I still love those. But over time, something has shifted. The plants people talk about most weren't always the rarest ones. They were the ones that made the garden feel whole. You know people like that too, right? I think part of that shift came from planting in pots. Containers don't hide anything. There's no extra space to pretend something will fill in later. If a pot works, it's because everything is doing something together right now. The most beautiful pots aren't built around one perfect plant, although they can be. They tend to overflow, they contrast, forms lean into each other. They're generous on purpose. Gardens are just larger containers. They ask for the same things: variety, overlap, rhythm. They don't reward restraint in the way we think they will. They reward relationship. There's a difference between admiring something and making room for it. Admiration keeps a little distance. Belonging says, there is space. Come on in. Come closer. That's why you'll see more than hostas here. Shrubs that anchor the space, perennials that come and go, sometimes quietly, sometimes with a little flair. Plants with native roots, plants that are new to the market and oh, so exciting. Plants that feel just slightly unfamiliar. Not because every garden needs everything, but because most gardens want options, and because hostas, for all their beauty, are better when they're not carrying the whole story alone. Here's something we've noticed. Just our experience, not a rule. The gardens that age the best are rarely the ones built around a single star. They're the ones where plants take turns. Some arrive early. They make a big impression, then they step back. Others take their time. They wait until the light is just right. Something is always beginning, and something is always fading. And something else is quietly holding space in between. Hostas are steady, like a good friend. They wait, they hold, but it's the mix, the overlapping lives of shrubs, perennials, and hostas. That makes a garden feel like it belongs to time, not trends. That's what most people are really shopping for, even if they don't know it yet, or even if they know it but don't say it aloud. Hostas are at their fullest not when they stand alone, but when they share the garden with others, quietly shaping the story together. A metaphor for life? If you love hostas, shade gardens, and the real rhythm of our natural world, not just the pretty parts, you're always welcome here at Hosta Heaven. Until the next chapter, in the Hosta Garden.